Greetings, cheers, and welcome back to the tavern. I'm really excited. This is episode 12. It's just we've gotten through like 12, like 11 episodes, and the 12th episode. I just posted last episode that I did with Chuck Austin. For those of you that did join us for the live stream, what happened there was, hey April, what's up? Hey, good to have you. Yay. For those of you that joined us for the last live stream, you probably know we actually cut out very abruptly at the tail end of it. That was because right at the end of, because it was actually my first in-house interview when, with my friend Chuck Austin. He's a musician, he's into history, all that fun stuff. But what happened was that my device ended up overheating and the entire interview was just obliterated. I mean, if you were tuning into the live stream, you saw the live stream, which is good. But if you wanted to catch the replay, unfortunately, that episode was lost. So what Chuck and I did afterward, and I just got around to posting it because I had to edit it, was that he and I did a pre-recorded Tavern episode and just kind of rehashed a little bit of what we talked about on the episode. So I did just post that, so that replay or that pre-recorded one is also available now. So now you have two Tavern live streams to catch up on. That was episode 11, and this is going to be episode 12. And I'm really excited to have tonight's guest on. Hey, thanks for joining. Tonight's guest on, which is the Darkeyed musician, and I always enjoy talking to other musicians. As a musician myself, who also is very much into the Celtic genre, Celtic subgenre. I do, Celtic rock, Celtic metal, Celtic folk. It's always just a great pleasure to talk to not only, like I said, another musician, but somebody who is also into that genre. And she messaged me. She's going to be joining us in a few minutes here. I think motherly tasks called, which is completely understandable, but she will be joining us here in a couple minutes. So, but I'm really excited. She just released a new album called Illuminia, and if you haven't, heard some of the clips from it, it's really, really just phenomenal, and it's actually kind of inspiring me as I am making my own my next album, which is a Tudor era album, and of course it will have some Celtic themes to it. But while we're waiting for her to join us, I'm drinking tonight, and just tell me what you're drinking tonight, because this is the tavern. I'm drinking sage tea. I do like to. Oh, good, yay! She joined. So yeah, just send me. Okay, cool. So sent a request to join, view, and all right. Okay, so I just accepted. Let's see. Let's try that again. View. Go live. All right. Invited. All right, so I accepted your request. Here, let's see. Join the live video. All right, so she's in the room. She just sent a request to join the video, the live chat. I accepted it, and invited. Okay, so check your invites, because I checked it and it just said that I invited you. So, okay. It says you're unable to join. Let me see. Go live. Oh, why must Instagram make this so Hey, awesome. Yeah, I know there's almost always some glitch with like, and April's here, because I've done a couple of these live streams with her, Fashions Revisited, and there's almost always a glitch at first, but like, this is like pretty much the most sufficient, because I tried doing it on Facebook Live before, and it was just, no, absolutely, it just didn't happen. So Instagram Live is like, the thing to do right now, but there's still some glitches here and there. But yeah, so awesome to have you on. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you.
Thanks
Can you hear me okay?
all of us. Yeah, I'm really enjoying hearing the clips of like just like your new album and everything. And I can't wait to hear the whole thing. Yeah, hi to everybody joining us. Thank you so much. So yeah, so I see you're in your car.
I am. No. It's the only place that I have 4 kids and they're all getting ready for bed right now, and we have like downstairs bedrooms. So this is the only place that is quiet. And I still because I'm in my driveway. So this is where my husband and I go to like hide for video calls if we need to.
Gotcha.
So, I'm here hiding in my car on my driveway. I'm not driving, I promise. I'm just sitting in my driveway.
Yeah. Oh, okay, yeah, I was just like, were you running errands or something like that? But, nope. Okay, just kind of like it's quieter in there, I get it.
Yeah.
So, all right, cool. So, tell a little bit about yourself, like for those that might not be, might not have like had a chance to like get to know your stuff yet.
Well, I'm an independent like singer-songwriter, and I started around 2016 just kind of writing like, really I would say like fan music is what I started writing really spontaneously. I was inspired. I was like, hey, I have a YouTube like account. Yeah, I do, which I never used, and I just like kind of threw it up there to share my fan songs with other fans, and they received like really good feedback, and I had that moment of like, oh, I could do this. Like I didn't know that I could do this. I kept, most of my music career has been teaching. I've taught like usually kinder music, and not that that's bad. I've always dreamed of having some kind of a recording or performing career, and I always thought that just was kind of not for me. And when I went out there and I put my music out there, and it was received pretty well. I mean, now I listen to it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't know anything about recording. It sounds horrible.
I know.
They're still being viewed. I don't know who these people
are. Oh my gosh, wow. I'm the same way, yeah.
And I feel like I'll probably do the same thing. I'll look back on this year. I'm like, oh, but it's okay. It shows the growth, right? Because we're always growing. So,
exactly.
I think that for me, I wasn't really sure what kind of music I was making, but I knew that I was writing it for fantasy novels. So I guess fantasy has always kind of been part of the inspiration.
Right.
And when I found, I think when I went to write music, it kind of just naturally sounded Celtic, because I think I've listened to so much Celtic music, it's just sort of seeped into my being. So when I went to write, Like I went to write it, and I was like, I guess I make Celtic music. So that's sort of where the Celtic fantasy genre, like, the title was born, because I was looking for my niche. I follow Savvy Musician Academy. I was looking for my micro niche, and I was like, seems about right. So that's about, I really started being more serious about what my niche was, what kind of music I'm making, and where I'm headed with this. Probably around early 2020, I made that decision. So I started a Patreon, I started writing an album, and here I am.
Right, yeah. And I tell you, you mentioned Savvy Musician Academy. That has been such a godsend. Oh my gosh, yeah. Like, and I really think, like, what it did was, I don't know about you, but with me, it helped me get, just things into perspective and just better organized, and granted, now I'm curious about the old stuff.
Oh, who's that? Oh, yeah, Bob. Yeah. You can look on my YouTube channel. It's there. It's just it's just poorly recorded, because I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know what it was. I mean, the music I don't think is bad, but I'm biased. Like, it's the way it's recorded. You listen, and you're like, it was me and my keyboard, and my one microphone. Right,
but that's how a lot of us get started and everything, and then you just keep getting better, you keep learning, you learn more about the recording process and mixing, mastering, all that stuff, and if you have somebody else do the mixing, mastering, all the better. But I think, but like, yeah, you mentioned 2020. Like, I spent a lot of 2020 just kind of building my own home recording studio. Not that I'll never go into another recording studio again, but hey, everybody joining us. Yay! Not that I'll never go into another recording studio again, because there's definitely some things that I would prefer to do in a recording studio as opposed to my home studio, but like 2020, when like everything was shut down and it was just like, well, how else are you going to do stuff, So I did the same thing, and I got to know better the process of recording using that software, and also just, all around, just like even mixing and mastering, because personally, I would prefer to at least do the mix, have somebody else do the mixing and mastering. But I still want to know how to do that, because you never know. You never know when you might have to mix and master your own stuff. So
yes, and I've done a lot of that. And all my early stuff was just myself. For my album Illuminia that just came out, I did get to work with Timo from Grimwater Music. He does like medieval Celtic. It's really great if you check him out. A plug for Timo.
I'd love to, definitely.
He needs more. He has got a good following on Spotify, but he definitely needs more on social media. Grimwater Music is a good one to follow, and he did it because he was helping me orchestrate the album, so he added like other instruments to my arrangements and helped me arrange that, so it made sense for him to just finalize all that stuff. But that being said, he even will say that he's not, like, that's not his main thing either, and he's mostly just used to doing his more MIDI orchestration, so it is different when you bring in that live, that vocals and the live. I did recorders, I did ocarinas. Like when you bring in those live instruments with the mix, I think it is difficult. So I agree with you. It's definitely something that I'm like, I want to learn more how to do that, because I think you never know when you're gonna do it, and
never know exactly.
But in a live studio, I've actually never been in a recording studio before, so I'd love to know about what you've done with that.
yeah. I mean, I have. I've done a little bit of both. Because I do also have a series on my YouTube channel called The Living Room Sessions, and there's just been some things that like we've just recorded live from the living room sessions, and like because we film it, but then we also, for a few of the songs, and this is just something I do with like musician friends and everything. We just kind of get together and like we do a song, usually within like the more kind of Celtic genre and everything. But like I've done both. Like I have been in a recording studio, and it's definitely I mean, I like it, and sometimes it's nice to have like a fresh pair of ears to hear what you're doing, because sometimes like they can pick up on things because sometimes, I don't know about you, I mean, I'm pretty good at kind of saying, like, looking at something I'm doing and being like, yeah, okay, that could be better, but not everybody is. And even when you are pretty objective with your stuff, sometimes, like, you can still miss stuff just because you're so close to the project. So being in a recording studio, I mean, I like the experience, but at the same time, it's kind of, there's pros and cons, like pros, it's like if you get the right person to produce your track, it can come out sounding really, really good. But a con is like, of course, the cost sometimes. And then also you kind of have to do it on their time and not on your time. Whereas in a home recording studio, you can do it on your time. Like, say, like you said, you have 4 kids, like, okay, when, they take a nap or do something like that, of course, you can go work on your music. You don't have to, like, wait for a recording studio or, like, try to find a babysitter, or, like, is the recording studio, like, have a kid-friendly place or something. So, so there's all sorts of, like I said, there's pros and cons to both. Like, and the big pro of doing it in a home studio is, of course, like I said, you can do it on your own time. But sometimes, a con is, like, especially if you're just kind of like piecing together and learning along the way, it's like sometimes it's just kind of like, it can be a little bit more of a struggle than just having somebody else who's been doing it for years and years and years just listen to your track and just like just do it, So
and I wonder if you forego the this is something I learned while writing this album, because I've as I said before, I've done some singles over the past. Some of them have been covers, some of them are original, and I feel like although I'm always pleased with the final result, there's always a moment, even with every track in this album, there was that moment where I hated every single song. Like, I don't know if it's just because I had worked on it too much, and then I'd like, oftentimes I'd be like sending in my raw files to Timo and being like, oh gosh, like I just send it back. I don't even want to listen to it for like 2 weeks. Send it back to me. And then it would often come back to me, and I'd be like, oh, was this that song? Well, hey, this sounds. I think it's like you're so close to that project, and that was an interesting experience for me. And I wonder if you're working with another, like a producer or somebody who's mixing and mastering, if you forgo that moment because you're just like, they just make it sound so nice already. But like, I think there's always a moment, and maybe you too as a composer as well. Like, of course, you just, I don't know. Also, I'm just like, why this song is awful? Why did I write this? And then I always step away. You step away, and then you're like, then I'm always nicely surprised. Like, oh, that is my piece. Okay.
No, I can totally relate because it's like, you're working on it so much, and then after a while, you're just like, I don't like this. Nobody else is gonna like it either. Then and then you just kind of want to, I'm just gonna shove the whole thing away, and we'll pretend this never happened. But then it's like when you sometimes if you just step away from it for maybe just a week or something, and then you come back to it. I mean, there's stuff that I wrote like a few years ago that like I hadn't listened to like in a really long time, and then I went back to listen to it, and I'm like, oh wow, this is actually pretty good, So it's just kind of like I totally can relate to what you're saying there because you are going to at first. At first you're going to be like, ooh, because I'm working on a new album based on events in Tudor England. So, like the Tudors, the Plantagenets, Wars of the Roses, all that. So, I'm kind of in like the demo recording phase of all of that, like the songwriting and demo recording of phase. And I know I'm going to get to, because, of course, like, a theme like that is pretty intricate. So I know I am going to get to that point, like, oh God, I hate this. This sucks, but, but then it's like, but sometimes like all you have to do is just kind of step away from it for a week. And then when you go back to it, it's just, it'll just be like, okay, this isn't so bad. Or like you said, when you sent it to your guy, the tracks would come back and you'd be like, oh my goodness, this is actually, wow.
Cool. Yeah, I think that, it's like, I feel like there was something I was going to say. Also, I think, it's interesting sometimes when things are, like, another thing I learned about during this process is, like, the songs that, like, I definitely had a lot of ideas and concepts for songs. I'm sure you do the thing that you're like, and I'd write that down, like, this song, it would kind of be in the style. I don't really have lyrics. I don't really have anything. It's literally just a concept of, like, I have, like, maybe a title or an idea. And I had several of those that, like, never came alive. They never came alive. And not that they won't at a later point, but at this point in time, like, I would often go back to my list and I'd kind of search for that inspiration and it wouldn't come. And then, there are a few songs I kind of wish, I'm like, I wish that those had like been born. I wish that I had been able to bring them to life. And then there are some, quite a few on my album that like came out of nowhere that like I had no plan to write, and all of a sudden they were written, and I was like, like I never thought I'd write that. So I feel like that was like I think one of when we were talking about the interview questions you had sent me for Celtic Nation, your blog on Celtic Nations, and one of the questions you asked was like, about the album, and I thought that was like that was something that just kind of struck me. I was like, there are quite a few that like, they came as kind of a surprise, and they were gonna happen, and I opened up this album as like, it's Celtic fantasy and genre, but at the same time, like, I didn't make it themed. Like, I would love to do a theme. I love that you're doing Tudor. I don't know if that'd be what I would choose, but I know you're a history nerd, and I love it.
Oh, like, totally.
All your stuff and all your costumes is so awesome. So I think that makes perfect sense, and a theme is really, really cool. But for this one, I didn't do it mostly because I'd never done an album, so I was kind of like, I don't really know what's gonna come out. Like, I have no idea what will happen. So there's a lot of different things.
Yeah. So are there any books or anything that you're reading, or that anything that might have inspired some of the songs on your album? So I know I'm reading a ton. I have like a big old stack here. one of them. The Time Traveler's Guide to Medieval England. I was just like, I'll just get, because, Plantagenet era, they're, medieval England. Anne Boleyn, I'm reading a bunch on Anne Boleyn now, and Wars of the Roses, Dan Jones, he's a great, really, really good historian, does some really amazing documentaries. And then, this isn't a history book, but it's, I don't know if you've read this, The Mists of Avalon. It's the stories, it's the tales of King Arthur told from the women's perspective, the female character's perspective. So, yeah. So, if you're into that,
series done like way back in the 2000s. Was that the same thing? Was it based off of
they did a film based on it. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Oh, that's very interesting.
Yeah.
I guess I would say definitely for this one, for this particular album, I was at the beginning of writing, I was reading Wheel of Time. I got about halfway through the Wheel of Time series, so there are at least 2 songs, Wolf Dream and Edge of a Spear, that are both inspired by Wheel of Time. The earlier books, because I haven't finished the second half of this.
Right.
But that one is one of them. And then, no, the rest of it I really just kind of left, again, kind of more free, I guess. Obviously, there's Fairy Ring, and that's not about
I love Fairy Ring. I've played that clip over and over again, so.
Thank you. That one, we're hoping to make a video for that one. So I love that one, too. That was another one. That was the first one I ever wrote for this one. So, let's see. Somebody has read of Avalon. I'm reading comments here.
Yeah.
And then Carla.
Carla, I'll have to check out some of those books. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. The Anne Boleyn Chronicles by Claire Ridgway is really good if you're interested in more Tudor era history, and if you're into the King Arthur legends. And this is an awesome book, especially if you want to read it from the perspective of the females in that in those stories. And also, like I said, Dan Jones, Wars of the Roses. He's an amazing historian. He has a bunch of documentaries out too. So if you'd rather just watch a documentary, just look up Dan Jones Plantagenet documentary. That's also good. And I picked this up, The Time Traveler's Guide to Medieval England. It's kind of fun. It's a handbook for visitors to the 14th century, and it's kind of read almost like a tourist manual. So it's pretty cool, and I think it's good, especially for those. Because I know, a lot of people, they think, history books, it's going to be dry, it's going to be boring, all that stuff. And actually, that couldn't be further from the truth, at least in my opinion. But when you, but I think, people that take something like that and they make it into something fun, you are now traveling back to, 1402, and now you're in blah, 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 and this is what you can, these are certain landmarks you can expect. It's almost like I said, if it's read like a tour guide, it's, I think that's kind of something that can maybe, introduce somebody. Because I'm always about making history accessible. And I've discussed this with Rantarn, sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name. The Once and Future King is Great for Arthurian. Ooh, I'll have to check that. I've heard of it, but I've not read it yet. Thank you so much for the suggestion. But I've discussed this with Eliza of Silk and Sass 76 on and all, even April of Fashion Revisited on previous live streams. And and one thing that we try to do, whether through music or reenacting or whatever, is to try and make history accessible and make people kind of want to learn from it, so, and I think even delving into the fantasy themes, can kind of do that too, because those fantasy themes came from times long ago. They came from those myths and legends. What would you say, what's your favorite myth or legend that would probably influence your current works or future works, or what really stood out to you as a child, maybe I should say?
I think I would say there are 2 books that let me pause. As a kid, I always liked books like this. I've always enjoyed, I especially love illustrated. I still love illustrated books. Now, I have the excuse of having small children, so I can be like, I need all these illustrated children. So I grew up loving books like the children's book of virtues and the children's book of heroes, and that's beautifully illustrated by, I think it's Michael Haig is his name. So there's a
Right.
lot of great stories in there, from the Greek mythology. My oldest brother actually went to school for philosophy, and he once, for my ninth birthday, got me a book that was an old textbook, not from college, but for like kids. It was from like a vintage store, and it was all old myths and legends from all over the world. So it was a very easy reader because it was like a children's book. But I loved that book. I still have it. I love that book because it just had
Mm-hmm.
like very basic illustrations, but they went through like the Greek myths. They went through like some
Right.
Roman, not all of them, but some of them. There were ones from Russia, ones from China, ones from
Mm-hmm.
Ireland, and so that I just remember reading a lot. And I kind of veered more into the Celtic. I had a lot of books on Celtic mythology, and I think that it tends to, when you actually get into the books about Celtic mythology, it tends to be a lot
Yeah.
less. Think of like fairies and but in Celtic myth, like fairies are actually rather impish and they're not very nice, and
Oh, yeah,
you know
oh,
they're
I know.
usually trying
Yeah,
to
they
cause
are
trouble
not nice
all
at
the
all.
time. They're not nice.
You don't want to make a fairy mad. Definitely not.
No, no. So there was a lot of darkness there. I like the story of I think it's Deirdre is her name. That's very
Yes.
sad. There's that
Oh, I
story.
love that story.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Deirdre, and I think Nesh, his name is. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So
Hmm.
I loved stuff like that, and I read
Yeah.
a lot of that as a kid, and a teenager, and of course Lord of the Rings.
Of course. Yeah.
So
Hmm.
I think those just that whole kind of culture was always just sort of part of my upbringing, and I guess that's a good way of just kind of putting it. I don't know how else to think of it at the moment, but
Yeah.
I guess for a favorite myth, I don't know if I have a favorite one, to be honest.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, that's a really tough one. I can't think of one off the top of my head. I guess never mind. I will say one. The one I really would love to write a song about at some point, but don't hold me to it because in case it doesn't
Okay.
happen. But I love the story of is it Theseus, the one who goes into the Minotaur. He fights the Minotaur, and then the
Mhm.
girl, it's Ariadne, gives her the golden thread. I
Right.
love like they don't really talk too much about Ariadne because they're like, oh yeah, like whatever. She's like, here, I'm the daughter of the king who
Hmm.
wants to kill you. Here, take this thread. But I loved her courage. I've always been like really struck by that, how she like kind of goes behind the scenes and is like, psst, here's this golden thread. Like I don't want you to die, and saves the
Right.
and so I would love to write a song about that because I liked the way that story went.
Yeah. Yeah. And also playing D&D in high school was a big stepping stone for me too. Yeah. Yeah. Dungeons and
Have you ever
Dragons.
played? Do you play Dungeons and Dragons?
I have a couple times, yeah. I was always like, just kind of busy with like doing like music lessons and all that stuff. So there wasn't much time for me to get as much into it as maybe I would have liked. But I don't know, maybe now I'll start. But
Right? Never too late. Never too late.
yeah, yeah. But what about you? Were you a D&D person?
I would say the same thing.
Yeah.
I was dancing. I was doing other things,
Yep.
music, and I didn't have like my younger sister ended up with like a bunch of friends who loved it, and so she did it quite often. And
Oh yeah, I know. I
my
knew a
friends
lot of
just
people.
do
Yeah, who
it.
were into like the live action role play, Dungeons and Dragons, all that stuff. But
Yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I did it fairly recent, actually, right before everything locked down. I had one like February of 2020, and I got to do my first ever, and I was like, this is so fun. So we're gonna get
Mhm.
together again soon
Hi,
now that things are.
John. Thanks for joining. Got a couple of new people, so yeah, there you go. Cool. Hey, John, what's up? Cool. So you touched a little bit on this earlier, but what's your songwriting process like? Are you like more of an organic writer or more of like a like very like regimented, systemic, as far as, you have to like plot out the song, or is it a little bit of both? You know.
That's a good question. I think I'm developing it because again, as I'm learning
Hmm.
more about myself and the process, I think I would say that like I definitely don't sit down with as I imagined myself doing with a
Right.
staff and writing
Yeah.
out individual notes. That is not how I work, which is
Yeah,
why
that's
I think
not really how I work either.
oh good, that's good
I
to know. I don't
never
feel
liked solfege class. Yeah, never liked solfeggio class. No offense to people who enjoyed solfeggio. I just was like, no. Like, yeah, I'd be sitting there like falling asleep. But yeah, I hear you there.
I guess I do. I could use solfege, but I mostly would just like, I think for me, it was more a process of lyrics usually came first. So
Mhm.
concept, and
Yeah.
then lyrics would come first because I felt like the lyrics had to kind of give me something to base off of the rhythm. So I kind of had the idea of where the melody and the rhythm are coming from. This sounds
Hmm.
systemic and sounds very like I know what I'm doing, but I really don't. Most of the time, it would just kind of evolve naturally. But I would say lyrics definitely would come before
Hmm.
chords. Lyrics and melody sometimes together, but typically before I
Hmm.
ever sat down and gave it chords or anything.
Yeah. Hmm.
Lignum Vitae is a really good example of a song that like I literally just like was about to go to sleep and I was working on my album like preview and I have a picture of this beautiful tree in the video I
Right.
used. And I was like, tree of life. I should write a song about the tree of life. That sounds kind of
Hmm.
cool. And then I was like, what's another word for tree of life in a different language to make this more unique? And then I found Latin as lignum vitae. I thought that sounded kind of cool. And then I was
Hmm.
like, how would I make this song? So yeah, me at like 11:30 at night, I'm lying in my bed with like this song in
Right.
my head. Like I'm sure you've done the same thing. And I'm like, why can't I sleep? And I had to lean over and like type up lyrics on my phone because I couldn't.
Yeah.
So
That.
that's
Oh, I
yeah.
can relate to that. Trust me. You know?
I'm like, why? Why can't this happen at 7 o'clock in the morning? It happens at 11 o'clock at night.
Exactly.
So that
Exactly.
yeah, I
Yeah, but
would
it's
very
yeah.
systematic.
Hmm. We're doing well, John. Thanks. Thanks for joining us. But he asked how we were doing, and yeah, we're doing well. So, all right, yeah. So I could totally relate to that because I know when I do songwriting, it's sometimes it's really like it's just almost inconvenient when inspiration hits you and you're just kind of
Yeah,
like in the middle of like 20 things and you're just like, why couldn't you like the muse have hit, maybe when I was
yeah,
just like just kind of chilling here and like not really doing, or maybe trying to plunk something out on my keyboard and I'm just like,
yeah,
no, this all sounds like crap. But
yeah.
one thing that I don't know if it was Leah from Savvy Musician or somebody who said it, but I heard like there's a good idea in even like your bad ideas. Like even if you just use like maybe like a lyric piece or maybe one line of music or something. I was like, you know what, yeah, so even if I think something sounds like absolute crap, I'll still save it because you never know like what it might inspire later, or even if you just use like one little like chord or something from that could sometimes make all the difference. When you actually do like have your whole piece, your actual piece that you're going to put out to the public out. So yeah, so have you ever had anything like that?
Absolutely, yes, and I
Mhm.
agree with that. I never, I don't know if I heard them say that, but I agree because
Mhm.
I would say that that definitely happened with a couple of the pieces. The Dryads is one; it's my only instrumental on the album, and that one,
Mhm.
I actually Timo had been like, "Hey, Regina, do you have like any instrumental pieces? It might be fun to use something." I
Yeah.
think kind of encouraging me because I was having kind of a dead inspiration,
Mhm.
a season of like not great inspiration. And I was like,
Yeah.
I think I do have music I took from home, my old music, and I went through this stash of
Mhm.
music from forever ago. I was probably in college. Oh, that was last year. What? Just kidding. It's been a while. And I opened up and I found like this old tune I had done, again inspired by a fantasy book called, it's one of Cornelia Funke's books. Oh gosh, Inkheart. And
Mhm.
I didn't like, I wrote a tune for like when this character's supposed to be like, he's a flamethrower. And I was like, this would be cool to have this music play. And then I didn't really like
Yeah.
music that I chose because I didn't think it fit the scene. So I kind of just
Mhm.
it's bad. And I pulled
Right.
it back out and I was like, actually, this is a really fun dance tune, but it just doesn't fit that scene. And so I kind of just reimagined it and I put harmonies to it. And
Mhm.
it's a fun piece. Yeah, I agree with that. Don't throw it out. I'm glad I saved that piece of paper. I'm glad I
Yeah.
had a lot of things that I wrote that out on. And
Mhm.
same thing with Myth and Lore. I had been going to do a collaboration with another artist that fell through like a couple years ago, and
Right.
I come up with this come with me and journey beyond the far horizons. That was like
Mhm.
my one line, and that's the opening line.
Yeah.
and had this whole kind of that melody and that line stuck with me. And I
Hmm.
went back to it and I wrote a whole song from it. So I think that's wonderful, wonderful advice to give,
Yeah.
because again, it might not work in that moment. It didn't work for
Hmm.
that collaboration at all. We never finished it. It never happened. But
Right.
then back to it now, it's again, I
Hmm.
love that song. So
Yeah.
I agree 100%, 100%. You have to kind of keep everything, don't throw out anything. I like that.
Yeah, exactly. Well, even I read somewhere, and now this isn't music; it's more writing related. But I was reading something about how the author Stephen King actually, when he was writing up his, I don't know if you've heard this story, but when he was a struggling writer at the time, and he was writing up his like his story, which would be the story Carrie, which is like which was one of his like biggest like classics. And he actually thought it was absolute crap. He threw it in the garbage. His wife found it in the garbage and rescued it, and she said, "This is actually really good. You should like work on this." And then I think like his concern was like, "Well, I don't know anything about teenage girls, what's going, and she's like, "Well, I can help you with that, and she helped him like kind of flesh out the characters a little bit more, especially like the female characters. And and he sent it and that was like his first like major like publishing release. So what if he had
Wow.
actually threw that away and I mean, I'm sure maybe eventually he would have gotten published, but would he be like the writer that we know? So it's just kind of like, it's really interesting. Like, yeah, in case in point, even if you think how something, even if you think like something's just, yeah, this isn't working. I mean, don't throw it away, because even if you just like it, like we said, just use one little excerpt from it, so, and you never know, like, even if you just took the time to maybe flesh something out a little more, it could actually be that really good, piece of work that you're going for.
Mhm.
Yeah, so cool. So yeah, because I know like I'm I would describe myself more as like an organic writer, but sometimes it's like, when you have a deadline, you kind of have to sit and plot and plan and all that stuff, and and then come back and and revisit it. And um as far as your album goes, it's currently released. And what would you like? What is your? Do you have a favorite song from there?
Oh, um, I mean, it's kind of, I know it sounds like very vain to be like, what a favorite song, they're all fabulous. No, because
I
obviously I
know,
love songs,
right?
I want
It's
them to
like
sound
picking a
very
favorite
special.
child,
I know, geez. I actually think I would probably say Lignum Vitae only because I'm very, very, I love them all. I like period, but I will single
Hmm.
that one out because I feel like it just, I love atmosphere in music. I love creating
Hmm.
atmosphere with music, and that was when I felt like my idea for what it was supposed to sound like was actually enhanced to a beautiful degree with what we ended up
Right.
with. Like it was very much a process, which happened with a few of them. Where like Wolf Dream's another one where I felt like what I started with, what I sent him was like, we can have this like small drum in the beginning, like here's my example, and like then we'll just have the voices. They'll be kind of raw, be kind of, and then he sent me like this epic like kind of
Hmm.
weird ethereal. And I was like, he blew my socks off. I was like, okay, well, I guess we'll go with this because it sounds way cooler.
Yeah.
Vitae is one where I feel like, with our process of like, oftentimes Timo would like, I'd send him something, he'd send me back like a rough draft. I'd be like, what do you think of this? What should we add? And I'd kind of critique it, and we'd fix things, or I'd add extra vocals, and
Hmm.
we kind of, that's sort of how we worked. We'd kind of go back and forth a few times. And with
Yeah.
Lignum Vitae, felt like by the end of the process, like, we just had something where like every time I listen to it, I feel like you can just kind of close your eyes and just sort of drift away to it. And I love that it's transportive like that. I feel like it
Hmm.
just takes you somewhere else. And that's a big part of my theme for my music in general, is I love that it in my opinion, I think I want to be able to take people to a new place in their mind
Yeah.
and their imagination. It should be very
Hmm.
magical, very exciting, like a really immersive experience is what my goal is. So I feel like Lead Vitae to me really captures that in a very special way.
Hmm.
And it's sort of a prayer to me. It's kind of a prayer. It has sort of a lilting feel, and so it's
Yeah.
very special. It's very special to me.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Cool. Yeah, like I said, I've heard the clips on it, so I'm really looking forward to hearing the whole thing. So yeah, yeah. So do you so like what instruments do you play on it?
For League of Vitae is actually the only one where I did, I guess the album you're probably asking in general. So I
Yeah.
mostly did vocals, and then I added, I actually play my ocarina, which is from STL Ocarina, which I love their stuff, but I'm not very good at ocarina yet because I've only ever played it very little, and I'm used to playing recorders, which is what I actually play on quite a few other songs. I
I've
either
been
play
brushing up
alto.
on my recorder, so
Yeah, they're wonderful.
they
I
are.
like if you can do, I can do kind of the technique where it sounds more like a whistle, where oftentimes people will think I'm playing
Hmm.
an Irish whistle, or and I find that because this is where the music nerd comes out here, but because recorders are chromatic, I don't
Hmm.
necessarily need a different with instrument for every song I want to do, and I often do minor. I
Hmm.
often do like either natural minor, sometimes harmonic minor in my songs, so it's very convenient to have an instrument that can be easily adapted to a different key should I
Hmm.
need it to. So I am very much a recorder nerd. I used to play in a group of recorder players. It was very
Oh, I love it.
fun. There's the American Recorder Society. I used to play with them, and
Okay.
I love my recorder. So those are actually
Hmm.
featured on quite a few of the other songs in the album, and um, I really basically did voice and recorder and ocarina for the album. I didn't really do any other instrument, but I have a couple other that I can kind of dabble in, but I'm
Hmm.
mostly comfortable with those. And
Hmm.
obviously, oh, and piano, yeah, there's a couple
Piano.
pieces where
Oh
you hear
yeah.
piano, but a couple times like Tina will be like, "But the piano sounds so nice. Like, let's leave the piano." And I'd be like, "Okay, I guess we'll leave the piano." So there's a couple times where it's actually me playing the piano, and that made me a little bit nervous, but
Mhm.
but it works.
Cool, cool. And so when you are like writing like your music and everything, do you have anything playing in the background, like like Lord of the Rings film or anything like that, or are you just more of like, okay, I'm just going to just kind of sit quiet. I need quiet, because everybody's different,
I would say I definitely need quiet because
Mhm.
otherwise it'll just come out sounding like the Hobbit theme. I mean, right? Like I'll be listening to it like, oh, this sounds fantastic. I'm a genius. And like, oh wait, that was Howard Shore.
Oh
Like,
no, wait, that's a Hobbit thing. Never mind. Yeah.
it's already been done before. So no, I definitely need quiet. Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah, me too. I mean, because I do know some people they need to have something on while they work, and I mean, hey, if that's what works for them, but for me, yeah, I'm much better like when it's quiet, or maybe I'll have some sort of like light, very light soundscapes play. But even then, but that's more like if I'm writing a story, I'll have like kind of
Yeah.
like music or something playing. If I'm writing music, like yeah, I have to have it quiet because for me, like you said, like if you had The Hobbit playing, it's like it would be so distracting. Your song would end up sounding like the Hobbit thing,
Yeah.
or the Outlander theme, or um, whatever you happen to be writing. So do you have like a favorite like historical piece, like a historical film or book or anything like that?
Hmm. It's a good question. Well, I am a real sucker for Jane Austen, to be honest with you.
Oh, me too. I love
I,
Jane Austen.
that is we actually have I've been to a couple Jane Austen balls where you dress
I
up
have.
and but
Oh,
I
yes,
went to
those are
one. We
fun.
have a beautiful place down here called the Genesee Country Museum,
Hmm.
Genesee Village Country, whatever it's called. It has like three names: Genesee Country Village, whatever. It's really cool. And one time they did an 1812 weekend, and I got to dress up with my friends. And anyway,
Hmm.
so that was always fun because I curled my hair, and people thought we were actually reenacting because we wore our dresses, but
Hmm.
really we're just nerds. And yeah, anyway.
Right. Oh, there's nothing wrong with that. We're all a bunch of nerds,
Definitely, yeah, I'm a big Pride and Prejudice. I've read all of those, and I really enjoy those films. I like a lot of
Mhm.
Dickens. There's a lot of great Dickens films. I haven't read as much as him because he's a little bit thicker to get into.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, a lot, not as
Yeah, I
much.
have to be in a special mood to read. I mean, I love A Christmas Carol, but
Yeah,
as far as like sitting down and reading Dickens, I mean, I don't dislike it, but I have to be in a specific mood to read it. Like it has to be a cold, very cold blizzard out, and and I'm just like huddled inside my apartment, and it's like, okay, I'll read a Dickens book because the atmosphere is just right, you
Yeah.
know. hmm But yeah, but no, but I hear you, and I would say, I love Outlander. I do like the whole Jacobite uprising and Scottish history, but lately, just because of the theme of my album, I've been revisiting like the Tudors and the Plantagenets a lot and everything, and I've actually started rewatching because I've seen a few episodes of The White Queen. That's the very, very beginning, not the beginning of the Plantagenets, but it's the beginning of just that whole kind of going into the Wars of the Roses, and Henry, and then the overthrowing of Richard III with by Henry VII, and then Henry Tudor, Henry VII ascending to the throne, and then he marries a Plantagenet, so it was kind of like the two houses were combined, and so then he had Arthur, who was their oldest son and who was supposed to be king, and then Henry VIII, who was the younger son, who was kind of the spare, because in royal hire, in royalty, in the monarch, you have to have the heir, and then you have the spare just in case something happens to the heir. And a lot of people don't know Henry VIII was actually the spare. So, and when you really delve into his childhood, his upbringing, the fact that he was the spare, if you will, I mean, you kind of start to understand why he might have been the way he was. Not that it necessarily excuses it, but but you start to kind of okay, I could kind of see where these patterns came from, and why he was so just, bent on, you must have a son, you must have a son, you must have a son, because his father was always in constant fear of being overthrown, especially after his wife, who was a Plantagenet, died. And his father, he saw the paranoia of his father and everything, and how his, and how his father was Henry VII was maintain the Tudor lineage, and it's on you now, so I mean, it's very interesting just studying these people, and just kind of what made them tick and why they might have been the way they were. So that's kind of what I'm studying now. I'm also revisiting the King Arthur legends and everything. I
want to talk about King Arthur too. So many people bring it up. I think I'm so poorly versed in King Arthur. I've always known about him and in general, but I often oh, don't you know Arthurian legend? I'm Sword in the Stone? Why, yes. And so I know Rantarn or Bob earlier mentioned the Once and Future King. I'm I gotta read those.
Yeah.
But I think what you were saying about Henry VIII and everything, it's very interesting because you were saying how making history accessible, right? That was your earlier comment. It's about making it accessible, making it interesting, making people want to learn more about it. And I was a history minor in college. I do really love history as well, which is why I following stuff as well. It's so interesting to see, to learn about our history, but also in the end, a lot of times I think what you were saying as well is we want to kind of put Henry VIII in a box and be well, see, he was a scumbag. And you're well, yeah, yes.
Well, yes.
Yes. I'm not expecting that, but at the same time, he's a person. We also know that he most likely wrote Greensleeves, which is still sung today. Clearly he was also a poet and a singer. So you're you have this person writing poetry and singing beautiful music and has such a taste for these things, then at the same time they kind of did some awful things, and it's because people are complex.
Right, exactly.
Not you can't just say and to negate somebody's talent or to say that they were a horrible person based on some of the things that they did. I feel again that bringing light to that and exploring that is interesting. You're saying, why was he that way? Was it just because he just woke up one morning and was I'm going to divorce my wife because I'm a jerk? No, it's because he had reason. And again, that's not condoning it. It's just saying, why would he do that? And I think that's really great. I'm looking forward to your album if you have anything about that.
Yay! Yeah, and that's and that's just it. And like I said, I think even by doing fantasy themes, you can even kind of get people make history accessible for people, because a lot of, a lot of those myths and legends were told, by people that lived long, long ago. It was their way of explaining certain things. It was, like I'm sure about like the whole, I did a whole Tavern episode on the changelings and all that stuff, and I'm sure about that, and and how that possibly might have been used as a way to maybe like console a grieving parent, or maybe if a kid had like maybe a learning disability and they didn't really have a way to diagnose it back then, so, or at least not diagnose it the way we can today. They would be like, oh, it might be the fairies, or it might, something like that. So, I mean, but at the same time, I mean, people, have had, sightings of fairies. I mean, I've been kind of researching it too. And I mean, people that have like entered the fairy rings, and, so like, what are your thoughts on that? Do you think there's truth in that? Or do you think, maybe people were kind of, I don't know, hallucinating, or just maybe wanting to tell a good story? I mean, what are your thoughts?
I don't know. That's an interesting question. That's kind of a deep question. I think there is something to be said about the fact that the image of the image of fairies and a lot of these mythological things that we know of, like dragons as well,
of course, yeah,
are literally everywhere. Like the entire world has some kind of expression of this.
Right.
A creature. Maybe it doesn't look the same. They look different. But there's always either a story of somebody like slaying a dragon, or a dragon being here, or fairies coming in, some kind of image of fairy or gnome, or even like witches in the woods. You've got like Baba Yaga or something over there, but then you also have like another version of that same kind of character. Like, why is it so pervasive? Why is it everywhere? So I think that they're I don't know. I won't say yes or no if I believe that it's true that you can see them, but I do think that there's something interesting about the fact that, like, for whatever reason, like, this idea exists, and as people, we either we needed to be there for some reason for ourselves, that we want to, like, explain it that way, either for history, like you said, that it was because people needed a way to explain things. That could be why the idea is, or that there's something there. I don't know. I mean, I don't typically... I'm more likely to believe in, like, I definitely believe in spiritual things like that, like angels, things like that, more so than the fairies. But I still love, like, the image, and it's been throughout so many different cultures. You have something like that, something like those creatures and spirits, and why is that? And then something to explore.
Yeah.
I think for me, fantasy, like you were saying, can be a way to talk about these things. But I also think for a lot of, like, my music as well, like, the image of, I kind of use this like warrior, bards, and dreamers sort of tag, but like warriors especially, I mean, there are still battles to be fought. It might not be the type of battle as, like, St. George and the Dragon is fighting that battle, but there are wars to be fought. Either we still have to stand up for what is right. We still have to fight battles. We still have to, there is still evil, and I don't want to get all all into that, but I just think it's that image, that need to have heroes, is still there. Like, we still need to have heroes. That's why I love these stories. That's why I love myths and legends, because they teach truth through these stories and through these characters. And sometimes there's, very, the circumstances are very different. They're very dramatic. They're very exciting. But I think that's all for the point that we can put ourselves in that same position and say, yes, I would be that person. Like, I would be the one who'd take out my sword and go and fight, or I would pull the sword from the stone, or whatever you want to say. Like, because we need that image. We need to rise to that image. And I think that for me, that's a lot of what drives my music, for sure, is that love of that image.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
A tangent. I apologize.
No, you're fine. No, I mean, that's awesome. Yeah, because it is true. I mean, whether you go to Carla, yes, yep, see, there you go. But yeah, I mean, but it is true. I mean, because whether you go to, like, Asia or the Celtic Isles, like, the story, like, there's dragons, like a story of somebody's, like, whether, like I said, Asia, the Celtic Isles, I mean, even if you go up to, like, Norway, I mean, it's all over the place. And yeah, they might look a little bit different. They might be called a different name, but yeah, but it's really interesting how these stories and like these stories of these creatures pretty much expand, countries, continents. It's not just like, okay, it was just confined to like Scotland or something, so maybe that was just something that the Scots maybe thought. No, I mean it's all over the place. There's versions of it everywhere. I mean, I got a book of Russian fairy tales that tell of a lot of the same stuff. It's just told a little bit differently. And the creatures might vary and a little bit to like say the more Celtic versions, but yeah, but like that's, I mean, it's definitely, and it does kind of make you wonder, like, oh, was there maybe something to it, because there's I don't know. I just say, truth is usually stranger than fiction.
With Russia, I have not read a lot of Russian fairy tales, but I have to say, with the ones that I have read, like, there's something very special about Russian culture and in general culture from that part of the world where, like, I think Russia in particular, and I say that not in a bad way, but mostly because they were, as you know, they were cut off from the most of the of Europe for so many years. For so long, they were kind of their own entity and living in a very dark, wintry, cold area.
Yeah.
And that's why I love a lot of their art and everything is so many flowers. Like, we're going to paint flowers all over this wall. And you're like, well, that's gorgeous. Well, why? Because probably half your year is like in winter, so you might as well have flowers on the wall. And I've always wondered if that was part of it. I don't know that for sure, but like they have an especially kind of like macabre sort of like twist on their fairy tales. But they're beautiful, but also like, wow, like you think like stuff from the Black Forest, but like when you go to Russia, you're like, oh, okay, so Baba Yaga definitely has like, she flies on like something weird, like not a broom, and her forest is human skulls. And, oh my gosh, like, oh my goodness, it's so intense.
Carla, they all represent qualities we desire or have, and people will cling to that too. Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I can definitely agree with that. So, well, so what are your plans for your album? Because it came out in May, right?
Yes. It came out on like May 15th, I think, was when it officially released. I'm still working on getting I will be having CDs. Some people who pledge are getting CDs, and I'll have those available for anybody who wants to purchase them after the fact. Basically what happened to me is like right about the time when I launched like my album campaign and all that happened, my husband switched jobs. We ended up deciding we were going to move locally, but still moving all of our stuff.
Oh, but moving's still a process, trust me. Yeah, I know.
And I just got total burnout. So I felt like I got to the end of like my, like, hey, the album's coming out. Like the album came out and I was like, okay, I'm good. Like I need to just like, because everything just kind of exploded in my face. That being said, I am not done. I'm just kind of trying to slowly get myself back into promoting things and getting back going. So right now it's on Spotify, it's on Apple Music and all those places. And definitely appreciate the listen on Spotify, because that is one place where it'd be nice to get a little bit more traffic there. It's such a big platform. It's a little scary to have your stuff on there, but I'm happy that it's there for anybody. I love Spotify. I use it all the time.
I like Spotify. I'm a fan.
It's great. I held out for a very long time. I was like, no. Like I don't this streaming thing, or I like Pandora. And now I'm like, Pandora, what the heck? You're like you're so behind. No, but they kind of are behind. So I'm on the Spotify train. Especially when I found out there's podcasts on there and there's like books on tape for kids. That's wonderful too. Anyway, this is not about Spotify. I guess for me right now, I'm looking at for the album, we're just moving forward with eventually I'll have like a little shop on my website where you can get the CD, like the physical album.
Definitely. Yeah,
maybe some little merch. I might have some bookmarks or posters or things like that. And then I'll be moving to a new place where I'll be setting up a new studio, which will not be in my basement next to my laundry room, which is very exciting. So I hope to do more live streams from there. So eventually I'll just be kind of carrying through the next year. And I'm just really happy that the album's out. I'm very pleased with it.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I can't wait to like listen to the whole thing because because I've enjoyed the clips, so I'm sure I'm gonna enjoy the whole thing too. So I'll definitely, I'll definitely have to get it. Maybe do a little review on it, stuff like that. So yeah, cool. And so like, are you like planning on? Because I know with things opening up, are you planning on doing live shows or anything like that, or are you gonna kind of be an online musician,
I mean, I think for me, with my children at this point being so young, my oldest is just 6.
Right.
I think that doing live shows might not be as feasible at this time. I would love to. I mean, right before everything kind of shut down when I was first starting things out, I was like, oh my gosh, like I would love to go to like, I don't know if Ren fairs would take me. I don't know what would take me. Who will take me? Who let me, like, I make Celtic fantasy music. Who wants to hear it? I'm not really sure where I fit in. Like, I don't know if you have the same thing. Yours is a bit more historic. I don't know if that helps you like kind of fit yourself into live locations. I'm not really sure where to go for that. That's my honest answer. I would love to at some point, but I don't even know who would take me. Like, I don't know where I would go.
Yeah. Well, I would.
I'm not going to be lined up at like
maybe research that and see. Maybe look up Ren fairs and see, because I have known people that groups that are within the vein of what you do and like even what I do that have played at some Ren fairs and everything. So that might be, a good. And you're getting wonderful compliments on your album. They're confirming it is wonderful. And we've heard Ren fairs. Yeah. Or even like you can do like even broken down versions in like, like a coffee shop or something like that. Or, there's so many different possibilities, I think. And then of course there's always, the beauty of the internet, like you can always do like a live stream concert. I actually did one back in December, with my friend Chuck. We it was a Winter's Night living room session concert, and we did a few like Celtic music favorites, a couple of some like a couple Christmas favorites as well, old traditional Christmas favorites, of course, but that's also an option too, and you can offer it for free, plus you can also charge tickets for it too, which that feature was added on I think last year. So
which is really nice of them to do that. I think for me, I'm working on something. When I did my Indiegogo campaign for my album, one of my top I guess they call them perks, was that I would put on a concert. And my idea for that is I'd like to do, this is for those people, so it'll be a very small online concert. Yeah. But I want to experiment. I want to experiment with like doing like a better live performance, because typically it's like me and my keyboard, and like I either use my phone or my computer, and I'm just not pleased with what I've been able to come up with in terms of sound quality. And I would love to use like almost like karaoke tracks from my album where I can just sing the live thing, but I have like the rest of it, like, so something like that, more live music. So I need to up my live music game, because either whether or not I'm doing it on online live concert, or I'm going to be doing like an actual live concert, like I really have almost no experience doing either. Typically, like I said, my live streams are just like me and my piano, and I'm just going to sing some random songs. But I would like to make it more professional. I mean, really, this is a competitive field, and now that so many, because of the lockdowns and quarantine, so many people moved online, which is awesome. But like that just also that saturates that market even more. And I would love to just be to, like you said about mixing and mastering as well. Like I want to just learn all of those things. I want to become truly somebody who at least can make a good show of it, right? That I can come out there like, and so I think that would be, online would be probably my primary, but my one friend actually even noticed our local newspaper is now highlighting like local artists, so she like wrote into them and was like, this person, like the Darkeyed musician, is local, and so like maybe I'll get some openings for live performances from that. We'll see.
That'll be awesome. Cool. Yeah, definitely. Like keep us posted and everything. And where can people find you?
In the dark, because it's getting dark out here.
In the dark, yeah.
Well, I'm here on Instagram, Facebook. My music is on YouTube, and YouTube is where a lot of my all of my old videos are too. So I know that Bob mentioned, hey, where are those old videos or the old music? That's all on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
I have a small presence on SoundCloud, but I'm not really there anymore. Do you use SoundCloud, Tiffany? Are you on?
I have some of my stuff on there. I'm not like a huge user. I mean, I'll
Are you on
upload stuff there. Huh?
SoundCloud, Bandcamp? Which one? Which one do you like
I
more?
prefer Bandcamp because you can actually sell your stuff on Bandcamp. I don't.
Okay.
I'm not sure if you can sell your stuff on SoundCloud. I don't know if
Hmm.
they've added that feature or not.
Hmm.
That shows you just how much I'm on there, you know.
Right. Look, I've
But
never
yeah,
gotten
but
high traffic from there. It's always been kind of like, I mean, some people, but I'm like, who's even on here? Like,
yeah, yeah. I mean, I prefer I mean, I like Bandcamp because at least like you can direct your, direct people to it to like, purchase or download something, and they don't have to have a Bandcamp account. They can just buy it and they like pay for it. Whereas I think they have to have a SoundCloud. I don't know. Like I said, I do have stuff on SoundCloud, but I don't use it all that much. So
yeah. And I
yeah.
also, I was once on Twitter, and then I was like, I just never got traction on Twitter, and I'm like, I really don't like Twitter. Like, not for
Yeah,
any
Twitter's not my
reason.
biggest. Yeah,
I just,
Twitter's not my biggest platform either. I like Instagram. I'm gaining more traction on YouTube and Facebook. Even though people are like, "Oh, Facebook's dead," it's like, no, not. I mean, not really. I mean, and I still get pretty good traction on Facebook. So, so those are like my three main. My three. Are you considering starting a TikTok?
actually, no. I just honestly, I think I'm at my limit right now.
Yeah.
Although, like I'm trying to use my website as more of a place to like have stuff for sale beside. Like that's the only reason I haven't done a Bandcamp is 'cause I'm kind of like maybe I should just do it on my website. But I've considered Bandcamp. But honestly, I am stretched. I am stretched.
Right.
Facebook. Facebook page, Facebook group, and then Instagram. And with all that involved, you've got stories, you've got live streams, you've got
Hmm.
conversing, you've got DMs. I am at my
Yeah,
limit.
maxed
I
out.
don't
I
know how.
know.
That's the
Yeah,
only thing
'cause
with TikTok. I can't even
yeah, I
do
thought
reels,
about
Tiffany. Reels are like a mystery to me. Everybody makes these adorable reels. I'm like, I'm not, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. I'm like, I don't get dressed in fun costumes. I don't know. Like,
yeah,
like,
see, I have ideas of what I would do on TikTok, but the thing is, it's like, do I have the time for it, when I can also just do that on, you know, Facebook, not Facebook Reels, Instagram Reels, so
oh
it's just kind of like, do I really need another app blowing up my phone? You know?
yeah. And I think
So,
like I can see the value of TikTok and can see where people and of
oh,
course YouTube doing
absolutely.
their shorts now. Like YouTube had their
Hmm.
shorts so that they're like, we're like TikTok too, come to YouTube.
Right, yeah.
Um, and I can see where those are appealing. I definitely get stuck watching too many shorts on YouTube for some reason.
Yeah,
Because they suck you in. But yeah, like I just feel like for right now, I'm trying to just master where I'm at and do as
right,
much as I can where I'm at. And I'm finding the best advice I've been given, which has been basically echoed by anybody I look up for like advice on starting out online or being an
right.
online musician or online
Hmm.
entrepreneur, period. All of
Yeah,
it is relationship with the person that you're communicating to and
correct.
knowing
Hmm.
your avatar and communicating to them and
Yes.
making and building those relationships. And I
Hmm.
can do that just fine on Facebook. I
Yeah,
can do that just fine on Instagram. I don't need to add another place to find people. Like, it's enough
right.
to keep up with those things right now, at least
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah, at least
Uh,
for right now. And hey, in the future, if you're like, yeah, I'd like to start making TikToks or whatever, it's like, yeah, you can always jump on there.
yes,
So, or who knows, maybe next year it'll be something completely brand new. That's like, that's like the new big thing.
I know,
So,
I know. It's hard to
yeah.
keep up. It's definitely hard to keep up, but, I'm
Yeah.
trying. Well, hey, supposed to be on. Yeah,
Yeah.
there we go.
Also, definitely, DM me, Timu, the guy that
Oh,
you worked with.
Timo,
Timo,
yes.
yeah. Definitely because I'd like to check out his stuff, definitely.
Cool, I will give you his link. I can actually probably post it here for everybody, too, because I think he's
Okay,
on here.
absolutely, yeah.
Uh, and he's on Spotify, and like I said, he's getting a pretty good following on Spotify as well. But he just recently came to Instagram, so he doesn't have a ton on there right now. But he should be. I think I tagged him, Grimwater Music. But yeah, we've worked together for almost a couple years now.
Cool. Fun. Yeah, I'll have to. Yeah, everybody go follow him. So
give him a good
Grimwater Music, and I'll also put him in the tag. Because when I post the replay for this, I'll also tag him there as well. So Grimwater Music, so that people can go follow him, and I'll go follow him too, because I'd love to check out his stuff.
He does a lot of like traditional. He does like more medieval kind of. Well, he's out in Finland. That just gives you an idea about, again, like you were saying, with being an online musician, how wild our world is. Like, I've only communicated through email. I've like never talked to him. We've never even like done this because I think his English is not. I don't know if he feels comfortable. From what I understand, he does great with writing, but I think he was like, we never just even talked. Like, so how funny is that? I'm like, so we wrote like this whole album. We've done like collaborations, and we've never actually like talked.
Yeah.
He's a great
cool.
guy.
Everybody's going to go check him out. Yay. All right. Cool. All right. Cool. Well, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me. It's been a lot of fun. Great to talk music.
Yeah, definitely. And I will definitely, definitely I'm going to pick up your album. And if you haven't picked up her album, definitely pick it up. If you want to hear samples of the clips, it's the dark. It's under. I'll tag it. I'll tag you in the description. But it's the Darkeyed Musician on Instagram and pretty much everywhere else. You're the Darkeyed Musician, correct?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So yeah, and I'll tag it. So it's like the _ Darkeyed _ musician, right?
Yes, because
something like that. Yeah. I'll tag it, but definitely check out her clips, and thank you for joining us, Bob. Awesome. Yes. Check out her clips and everything, and like definitely if you're into Celtic fantasy themes, I really think you'll enjoy it, and absolutely. So, and also just a little announcement on my end. Love the chat. Thanks, Carla. Thanks for joining. My schedule for the live stream, I will be doing another live stream later this month on the 3rd. I do it like the 1st and 3rd Friday of the month, but my July schedule might change a little bit just because the first Friday of that month, I believe, is 4th of July weekend, and I'll be in Fort Niagara that weekend, and you can't really, unfortunately, because I wanted to live stream from Fort Niagara the one year and everything, and I guess it's just because I don't know if it's just because it's right on the Canadian border or something like that, but the Wi-Fi is kind of like just really like kind of wonky out there, so it didn't work.
The New York side or the Canadian side?
I'm sorry?
Will it be on the New York side or the Canadian
New York side? The New York side. So, yeah, but it's right on Lake Ontario, and you can see, like, Toronto, like, literally right across the lake.
Close to where I am, actually. I'm another few cities, but that's only a couple hours from where I live.
Oh, awesome! Yay!
I always see you post pictures of Fort Niagara. I'm like, I've never been to Fort Niagara. Like, I need to go. Like, I have never been. Not
you do need to go. It's beautiful. You'll love the castle. You'll love the castle that's there. It's absolutely just gorgeous, and it's like right on the edge of the lake and everything. And yeah, I think you will appreciate it, definitely. So but my schedule's going to be a little bit different in July, so I'll just kind of have to see what my schedule's like, whether I'm going to have 2 episodes or 1. And I'm also going to be releasing my podcast, The Hidden Library, at the end of this month. I'm excited. So, yay! And I'll be saying a little bit. Yes, I'll be saying a little bit more on that in the coming weeks too. So basically, I'll be talking about just books I've read and my own take on them, and they're all going to have like a history or fantasy theme and everything. So sometimes a gothic horror theme, but mainly history and fantasy. So, all right, yay! Thanks, Carla. All right. Yes, thank you again so much. I'd love to have you on again
too
one day. Yeah.
I hope
just for like an update on your album, or if you're writing again. And like I said, I'll definitely pick up your album and like do a little write up on it on my Bonfires, Castles, and Time Travel webzine, as well as my Celtic Nations magazine blog. So yes.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate it very much,
All
Tiffany.
right. Thanks so much, everybody. Thank you for joining us. All right. The replay will also be available for those that missed it or for those that could only join us for a short time. So, all right. Thanks, guys. Good night. All right. Thank you for joining us.